UCLA gets to join the Big Ten, but at a cost. The Dodgers signed Thor when they clearly needed Iron Man. And, well, sometimes it's just not a good look to be a Clippers fan. Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is December 15th, 2022. I am broadcasting from Ice Station Beta in Anchorage, Alaska. I want to thank every one of you for joining me in the frigid cold. Longtime viewers will tell you I do this show on the road as a way to keep from trying to blow all my money on a strip club. Anyway, if you like the content we put out about LA sports, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means, comment. It's cold in these Czar Hills. So before we go through the news and notes from around LA, looking at the scoreboard, Jalen Clark scored 19 points, and number 16th ranked UCLA beat the living hell out of 20th ranked Maryland, 87-60. This is the most lopsided win for the Bruins against a ranked opponent since 2020. I think UCLA is putting it together, obviously. Trey White scores 20 points. The USC basketball team wins its fourth consecutive game, 88-78 over Long Beach State. Kawhi Leonard led the Clippers with 19 points, and LA defeats Minnesota 99-88. Meanwhile, today, the Clippers are going to play again. They're going to host Phoenix at 7:30. LA is just a half a game behind the Suns in the Pacific Division. Meanwhile, the Kings are in Boston. That game's at 4. 2 weeks ago, the Kings front office sent a message to the players by taking goaltender Cal Peterson and putting him on waivers. Yeah, the message hasn't been received. Since then, the Kings are only 3 of 4. There might be a systemic problem there. So, as we predicted on this channel yesterday, Regents did what California politicians love to do: tax you back to the Stone Age. And what I mean by that is, yes, they decided to vote in favor of allowing UCLA to go to the Big Ten with USC in 2024. That was by an 11-5 vote on Wednesday morning. But as part of the deal, UCLA will be cutting a check for Cal Berkeley anywhere in the range from $2 million to $10 million. Now, we're getting differing reports on how often this payment will be made. There have been a couple of reports that said it was just a one-shot payment. There have been others that said UCLA will be paying it annually. I'm here to tell you, if you pay taxes just like anybody else, you know that tax man is going to be knocking on your door every year. This is most likely, in my opinion, an annual payment. There are other concerns that were allegedly addressed for the students. I'm extremely skeptical of that. I don't think the Regents care about the students. I think the Regents care about saving face, and I absolutely am certain that they care about the money. So yeah, whatever. Oh, we care about the students. Get rid of that. They're not going to check that. They're not going to take money and check to make sure that the students are happy. But what they will happily do is what I happily do every Friday morning: cash that check. How big is it for UCLA to leave the Pac-12 along with USC? I mean, the schools, they've been part of a rivalry and part of a form of Pacific whatever conference, whether it's 8, 10, or 12, for over 100 years. Well, the athletic program was over $100 million in debt at the start of the school year. They've trimmed it now to about $62 million in debt. There is a belief that at that time, UCLA was floating around the idea of cutting teams from its athletic program. Now, this is not an insignificant thing for UCLA. You have to remember, UCLA is more than just the legacy of John Wooden. UCLA has been tremendously successful on the national stage in a variety of sports that, frankly, a lot of us would consider niche. Gymnastics, swimming, volleyball, golf, things such as that. some of those sports would have had to go away on behalf of Title IX. Mentioned that they were $62.5 million in debt. The Bruins could earn an additional $70 million each and every year because the Big Ten signed a $7 billion media deal. And by the way, the Pac-12 doesn't at this point have an upcoming media deal because everything's going to change now that both LA schools are waving goodbye. The Pac-12 is horribly mismanaged. This is the inevitable result of such bad mismanagement. And in case you're wondering, USC is a private school. They do not have to answer to the UC Regents. But again, UCLA does have permission to leave. They simply have to cut a fat check in the process. By the way, welcome to Anchorage, Alaska. I would like to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Castle Adult Megastore. Castle. When you want your wife to dress her sluttiest at -7 degrees Fahrenheit. Castle Adult Megastore. Let's talk a little Dodger baseball. LA has signed Noah Syndergaard to a 1-year contract worth about $13 million. Now, this is important to me for a couple of reasons. One is because it indicates to me that the Dodgers are not necessarily fearful that Trevor Bauer will win his appeal over a suspension in a sexual assault case that, by the way, never went to court. I'm not going to adjudicate the court case here. I'm not a lawyer. As we all know, a couple of summers ago, Bauer was accused by a woman of a sexual assault. Since then, other women have stepped up and said Bauer did the same thing. No case has ever gone to trial. In the eyes of the law, Trevor Bauer's an innocent man, but Major League Baseball reserves the right to suspend players if they face sexual assault accusations. Bauer has been appealing. Now, if Bauer had won his appeal, he would be scheduled to earn $32 million. Prior to the signing of Syndergaard, the Dodgers were just $38 million under the cap. You give Syndergaard $13 million, that now drops to $25. They do not want to go over the cap because if they do, luxury taxes get progressively worse. If you go over for 3 consecutive years, the Dodgers have been over for the last 2. I realize that's a little convoluted. Hopefully it made a little bit of sense. However, on the field, where does this matter for Syndergaard? This is a potentially curious move. Syndergaard had Tommy John surgery 2 years ago. Now, prior to Tommy John surgery, Syndergaard would have been one of the hottest names on the free agent market. He would have been hotter on the market than Justin Verlander, Carlos Rodon, etc. He was a tall, powerful, flame-throwing guy with just a flowing hair and the beard. They love to call him Thor out in New York. You know how the New York media is with trying to come up with hack nicknames for people. So he was once this massive name. Then, of course, the Tommy John surgery happened, and all of a sudden, he can't strike anybody out. His strikeout ratio was lowest that it had been in his entire career. He pitched not only last year with the Angels, didn't perform well there. They sent him over to the Philadelphia Phillies, didn't work particularly well there. LA, the Dodgers front office, when they look at pitchers, they put a premium on strikeouts. So the entire coaching staff has to work yet another miracle, much like they did last year with both Tyler Anderson and Andrew Heaney. Now, if you can do that with a guy like Noah Syndergaard to get his strikeout numbers anywhere near where they once were, look out. Syndergaard is going to be a monster. On the other hand, Tommy John surgery is pretty damn serious, so there is some risk involved here. The Dodgers have also acquired J.P. Fireeisen from Tampa Bay for a minor leaguer. Now, I think the Dodgers front office, in a number of cases, deserve the benefit of the doubt for some curious moves. They didn't go after a whole bunch of big names in the offseason. The Dodgers have been traditionally successful. I understand giving, again, the front office the benefit of the doubt. But here's a guy in Fireeisen who might not pitch the entirety of 2023 due to shoulder surgery. I keep asking myself, what is this bizarre love affair that the Dodgers have with deeply injured pitchers? When they miss, Oh, I mean, they really, really miss when it comes to injured pitchers. Take Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy was the Royals' ace, blasted out his arm. The Dodgers traded for him anyway, and Duffy did not pitch once, not a single pitch in a year and a half in Los Angeles. So there's that. When Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play in the same game for the Clippers, they usually combine for 48 points. Extremely impressive for LA. That puts you on a path to victory virtually every time that they are on the court together. And now they're healthy. So you think, hey, everybody, maybe the Clippers can take a run. Are you sure? Remember, Kawhi Leonard has a profound and lengthy history for taking off every fourth game due to load management. So even when the Clippers succeed, there's always that little lurking thing in the background, which is actually troubling if you are a fan. Speaking of fans, here's a life hack. Do not be a super fan. No matter what your team is, do not be a super fan. Root for your team, buy the gear, enjoy a tasty Pabst Blue Ribbon at the arena. Don't become a super fan, because super fans take things too far. They think they're more important than the team, and that leads to trouble. Monday night at Crypto.com Arena, superfan Clipper Daryl. By the way, if you have to take your own first name and meld it with your favorite team, you've got some work to do on the nickname front, because that's not particularly clever. But Clipper Daryl was on tape allegedly trying to elbow past a security guard, and he got knocked the fuck out. I mean, I am not in favor. Look, the security guard wound up getting fired, by the way. So I'm not trying to say that the security guard was in the right. I'm trying to say is, just because you gave yourself a nickname like Clipper Daryl does not mean that you get to play the "Do you know who I am" card. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, like I said, buy the gear. Do not become known by everybody around you. I'm not Galaxy James. I love the Galaxy. I'm not King James. There is a King James. There have been multiple King Jameses. I'm not Clipper Daryl. I mean, again, I recognize the guy that got fired, right? But here's the problem, Mr. Clipper or Mr. Daryl, if I may speak with you privately. The dude got fired, so apparently he was in the wrong, correct? It's a minimum wage job. Do you know how easy it is to replace a minimum wage job? Oh, sure. You were once a security guard at Crypto.com Arena. You get your $15 an hour. You could clean toilets at the Target 2 blocks away and still get the $15 an hour. You could stock shelves, $15 an hour. Now, if I'm getting paid the absolute minimum wage and I'm going to lose my job if I throw a punch and I'm having a bad day and I can get another job like that, don't risk it. If you have, anytime you face somebody getting $15 an hour serving falafel at a food truck across the street, don't push your luck. That guy will be more than happy to knock you the fuck out. You don't want to go up against that. The Rams are not eliminated yet, oddly enough. Now, keep in mind, the defending champs can still win its final 4 games, and they still have less than a 1% chance to get the playoffs. By the way, speaking of the playoffs, there are 4 different teams chasing the final 2 playoff spots in the AFC. The Chargers are one of them. I'm just going to keep it simple. The Chargers, in my opinion, have the best shot of the 4. It's due to the schedule. The Bolts have the easiest schedule of the bunch. They're playing Indianapolis. They're playing the Rams. They're playing Denver. There are 2 teams that are playing games that are back-to-back on the road. The second game of the back-to-back is very difficult for the road team to win. So I would reckon that a number of those teams, I would reckon that 3 of those 4 teams are going to, at best, go 2-2. And I'm arguing the Chargers could go possibly 3-1. I like the Chargers odds. But let me know what you think in the comments thread. It's been a fun morning out here in the great white North. I'm James. Faithful Angelenos, by the way, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We talk LA sports here. We'll see you tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.